from MicrobeTV. This is office hours for Wednesday, the 18th of March, 2026. I'm Vincent Racaniello, and welcome to your viral corner of the internet. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you again. Our moderators tonight are Les Fabi from California, Tom Steinberg from the Oregon Coast Range. Thank you for joining us. Thanks, everyone else. Tell us where you're from. We will shout you out. Why do I have already 18 thumbs down? As soon as I turned it on, the stream, boom, 18 appeared. So someone came and did that. I don't know how one person can do it. You're only allowed one. But that person is just an F-head trying to make a meaningless point. Well, folks, what do we have for you tonight? We have one news item, which is very exciting. And we have your questions, as usual, and comments. And we have a mini lecture tonight. And I think it's the 57th mini lecture. Yes, 57th mini lecture that I have done here on Office Hours. It's a lot. And it'll be fun. It's a good one. So let's see where people are from. Tonight, by the way, here in New Jersey, it's cold. It got cold again today, like winter is back. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's life. What are you going to do, right? Let's check out the local temperature here. It's 1 degrees Celsius and pretty clear. Tomorrow, it's going to be low of -2 and a high of 9. Looks like the weekend is going to be 16, 17, 21 on Sunday. And then Monday, 13, 9, maybe trending upwards. Rita is here from southwestern Idaho. Beautifully, unseasonably warm and sunny days, 24°C. That's lovely. Tom is in the Oregon Coast Range, enjoying spring, the intrinsic green of winter. Moss, lichens, conifers, grass, welcoming the spring buds and flowers. No spring flowers here yet. Dagfinn is in Norway. Spring has come to Oslo at 1 a.m., 5°C. Snow is mostly gone. Bridget writes, unrelated, but hubby brought home a kitty he adopted on a whim. She looks like she's wearing white go-go boots, so we named her Bootsy. Very nice. Lovely. Michelle is in Philadelphia, 1 degrees Celsius, but cold north wind. And Bridget is in Evansville, Indiana, where it's 15°C. Pretty warm. Leo is he's at the office hours. His favorite place to be on a Wednesday evening, somewhere in California. Will is traveling east on a high-speed train, 319 kilometers per hour. Amazing that the internet can keep up with that. You know, there are many interesting things to be learned. So your time is slowing down very slightly because you're going fast relative to people on Earth. Very cool. Julie is in Washington with flood warnings. Welcome. Nice to see you again. We saw Julie at Tweevo this afternoon. Ubalubi, hello. Little Rock is 21°C. Been writing all day. Almost done with the manuscript draft. Rewarding with linguine from a local Mediterranean place. If you come here, go to Leila's. Derek and the Dominoes. Visto is in Sydney, where it's rainy, 22°C, and grateful the cyclone missed us. Sandra, hello. Questella, hello. Pete writes, after a fine sunny day in London, now a chilly 8°C, my power went off just before Tweevo. Only stayed for part, power back on half hour, and a big hole at the end of the road. What's the hole from? Is that related to the power loss? Greetings, Aurelian from Vancouver. I'm reading the book recommendation, The Ghost Map by Stephen Johnson. Johnson's a skilled writer. It's a great read. The Ghost Map. Yeah, I think someone mentioned it, right? Maybe I did. The story of London's, cholera epidemic. Maybe someone else mentioned it, and then I said yes because I have it right here. I am reading a book by Alan, which was a Twiv pick by Alan Dove. I'm going to pull it up here. Let's see. I can never remember what I'm reading because I don't have a book anymore. I have Kindle. So let's check it out. Waste Wars. Okay. This is incredible. You have to read it. Waste Wars. Wild afterlife of your trash. I mean, if you want to get scared, you should just check this out. Because, you think that you're doing a good thing by recycling, right? Turns out you're not. It just goes to a country that doesn't have any money. We foist it on them because we don't want it here. It's really sad, but this is a very good book. It's really beautifully written. We make now more trash than everything else on Earth. All the natural stuff, all the rocks and trees and mountains and buildings and airplanes and cars and people, animals. We make more trash than all of that. I don't know about the rocks and mountains. I think everything living on the Earth, not living and things that we've built and people and animals, we make more trash than all of that. You should check it out. It's really amazing. Highly recommended. Okay, hello Kang from Chicago, where it's 5 degrees C. Enjoyed a clear but cold afternoon, and it's staying clear this evening. So Will is on the China high-speed train. I take New Jersey Transit every day to and from the incubator, and occasionally I see the new Acela, which goes slightly faster than the old one. It's not even near what the China high-speed train or the Shinkansen in Japan or the TGV, the Train à Grande Vitesse in France does. It's just embarrassing that this country's transportation has been essentially taken over by the oil lobby from day one because they didn't want competition for cars. It just sucks that everything got screwed up here because of that. Oil has screwed up the world, as you know. I mean, the 1973 oil embargo was the beginning of economic screwage of the whole world. And now we see what happens when you cut off 20% of the world's oil supply. Oh, my gosh. It sucks that we are beholden to this kind of a natural resource. Leo, spring is here on the Mendocino coast, 27.7 C with fog, about 200 yards offshore. Elizabeth, hello from West Virginia. Yeah, the trolls are in. The problem is that they can't say anything to counter the truth that I'm saying. Okay? They can't say anything. And so what they do is troll us. What happened to my video? Oh, there it is. And the trolls cut off my video. It's back. I don't know where it went. My wonky camera, maybe? I don't know. Hate raid, yeah. It's what it is. I think you ought to use your brain if you want to counter something. And if you can't, that means you don't have a brain. Microbio is in Elgin, Illinois, where it is 3C. Hello, John. Minneapolis, 3C. getting ready for ASV this year in Minneapolis. Robert is in New Jersey. Hello, Robert. We are in the same state. Maureen is in Chile, northeastern Ohio. Mike and Lori, well, Mike probably is in, who's here now, is in cloudy Burien, Washington, 13C. So now that's 2 people in Washington that we have here. Stephen is in Manor, Texas. Thumbs up. Good to see you. SQLS Marty. Ted is hello in Atlanta. Nice to see you. Hello, Vanity, another moderator here. Getting your tea. Go ahead. Go for it. Patricia. Yep, cold again in D.C., but not too bad, though. Spring's on the way. Was just in San Francisco, the promised land, minus the Waymos. Sandra is in CDMX. It's 22 Celsius. Of course, Ciudad de Mexico, what we used to call DF, but is now Mexico City. I learned that from another one of our listeners from Mexico. Kimberly is in Vero Beach, where it must be warm. And Bridget, the seesaw weather is a ploy to make money selling sinus medicines. Unfortunately, nature doesn't have ploys, right? As we know. Markle from Eastern Long Island, where it's minus 1C. Wondering if anyone saw Project Hail Mary, the movie. How does it do with the science information? I didn't see it, and I didn't read the book. I did read his first book, The Martian. That was good, but then I didn't read anything else. Dream Brother, Humboldt County, originally from New Jersey. You're welcome. Welcome here. Hello, Sandy, Miss Blue Ocean, from the southern tier of New York State. Julie says, I see 18 likes. We have 49 likes and 19 dislikes. Just annoying. Chris is in Denver, where there is far too little snow to spring break skiing. Yeah, this is spring break, for at least for many universities. Columbia is on spring break. So I get a hiatus from teaching this week, which means I can spend more time on other things today. 2 live streams and a podcast today. I love it. Love it. It in Mexico City, beautiful purple flowered jacarandas, or maybe jacaranda, I don't know. Soul Symphony, Minnesota, we had 15 inches of snow on a Sunday blizzard, and today the buildings of my uni are actually raining from the beautiful warm sun. Wow, 15 inches, that's a lot. Hello, Mark Fuccio with the Indigo Mac Neo. San Jose, California. It was 91 F37C today. Unusually warm. I will have to depart after about an hour. Veronica, hello again. Moscow, 6C and sunny. Veronica was on Twivo today. Patricia's on the way back to D.C., hit the chemical smell emergency that shut down all the regional airports and was routed to North Carolina, but it's okay, all clear, all safe. Good to hear. Ms. Blue Ocean, it says it's -2 and snowing. Kind of cold in the house. I have to go fill the wood stove. I'm looking forward to spring in western New York. Lagotic is in Chicago, 5 degrees C, had a small blizzard overnight, but it's all gone now. Laura's in Washington, PA, 1C, and it's forecast spring weather tomorrow. I went outside this morning, and I turned back and went and got my wool cap because it's too cold to not have a cap. Hamid is in Omaha, Nebraska, where it's 21°C. Started the week with a blizzard and will end it at 32°C. It's clearly spring. Wow, that's amazing. A lot of people had snow this week. Brian is in Waterloo, Ontario, where it's -4 degrees. Welcome. EHS Talent writes that Cindy Leifer's episode with Ellen Woods was fabulous. Ellen shared her journey beautifully from anti-vaxxer to pro-vaxxer. We need to somehow reach millions with this stuff. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I mean, a lot of people should see that, right? But, you know, Rogan gets millions of views for purveying false information, and we give the truth, and we can't get even near that. But I have to say, Neil deGrasse Tyson tells the truth, and he gets millions of views, so there is some hope. But, you know, he's a powerhouse. Christina, Hershey, PA, 35F. What is the ghost map? Oh, okay. It's a book by Stephen Johnson. It's the story of London's most terrifying epidemic and how it changed science, cities, and the modern world. Right? An outbreak of cholera in the summer of 1854. And this is the story of that. Yeah. Pump handle, right? Jon Snow's the pump handle. So it's good. You should check it out. It's a good writer. Jonathan is in Encinitas. 20C, rolling home with you on 2 wheels. Wow. Is that a bicycle? That's cool. I don't know if you're far away. Maybe it's a motorcycle. Mark is in Vegas. 35C, should have parts of the city over 100F this week. 60% watershed, proof there is no global warming. MAGA stupid. Yep. Yeah, Waste Wars. It's really good. Oh my God, the first 10 pages are going to freak you out that we're living in this kind of world. Oh my gosh, yes, it's really good. So, Waste Wars, highly recommended. Hello, John. Good to see you back in the USA, or is it Trump's USSR? Port Townsend, Washington, 12C, the third person in Washington tonight. That's very cool. Dagfin is currently reading Booster Shots by Adam Ratner. It's been on my list since you discussed it on Twiv about a year ago. Great read. Yeah, Booster Shots is also good by Adam Ratner. Yeah, if you want that. It's all about measles, of course. Yeah. PBS writes, Patricia did a very good piece on the trash pickers in Egypt. One of my favorites. So Pete writes, failure of an underground cable 20 yards away took out me and my neighbor, nobody else. Men still working in the hole under floodlights. Hello, Patricia from Massachusetts. Nice to see you. Renatus, I'm unfortunately well aware that much of Toronto's recycled trash ends up in my friend's shores in Ghana, among other places. Yeah. There are all kinds of stories like that. And these countries need the cash, so they do it. Some of them have a lot of space, and they just dump toxic waste there. And, of course, it impacts the health of their people. It's sad. It's very sad. Older and Wiser is in Cleveland, where it's 0 degrees C, and Renatus is in Toronto, where it's -5C. Yes, we have to reduce our trash. But how? We make so much stuff. I don't know how we're going to do so much disposable stuff, right? There was once a time when you made things that would last many lifetimes. But then at a certain time, post-World War II, many countries started just to make disposable stuff. And that's it. Here we go. Are you familiar? Bodan Orishkovitz, who has been here before and who has emailed me. Are you familiar with the book Dangerous Miracle? Liam Shaw is the author. I am not. What's it about? Well, I can just look it up, right? Liam Shaw, Dangerous Miracle. By Liam Shaw. the astonishing rise and looming disaster of antibiotics. This is from 2025. Oxford University biologist. The rise of antibiotics, how we burn through them, and what that means for our future health. Yeah, that's why people are going crazy trying to find alternatives like phage therapy, because the antibiotics are not going to work forever. Here's another book suggestion, folks. Call Me Ishmael for Now is in Maryland, where it's -1C tonight. Leo. Dixon had an interesting cholera story about how the bilge water brought from India and dumped in London. Yeah, the boats, right? They do that, and they can bring cholera. Yep. Trains are awesome. I love traveling on trains. Most countries, the trains work well. In Greece, forget it. Forget it. I'll never take a train in Greece again. I'm sorry if any of you are here from Greece. They suck. Elsewhere in the European area, I have gone on trains, and they're all great. Yeah. Eliza Ben, hello, everyone. About 0C and a bit snowy in southern Ontario. You're welcome. You're welcome. Hello, MN. Would I be interested in discussing Dangerous Miracle with an international audience? I don't know what you mean by that. I have an international audience on my podcast, If that's what you mean, we can discuss it. Sure, I'd have to read it, right? Kira, evening, everyone. I used to take the Northeast Corridor and Raritan Valley lines in New Jersey. I only took Acela once. So that's what I take. I take the Raritan Valley line to Newark, and then I get on. Well, I get the Raritan Valley line. The trains now are dual use. So the Raritan Valley is not electrified. So they're diesel to Newark, and then they put up a pantograph, and they suck electricity to get into New York City, because you can't go in the tunnel with diesel. And so that works quite well. But going back, I have to change in Newark. So I take any train that goes to Newark. Yeah. Kang, railroads are victims of highway robbery. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yes, hit the like button if you like these programs. Would love to have more likes to attract other people. How do viruses change when passed in cell culture? Is this different when they pass from one person to another? Yeah, whenever a virus goes through a host, it changes, right? Especially if you change the host. But when you pass them in cell culture, so if you just keep passing viruses in cell culture, they will accumulate changes because, especially RNA viruses, they make a lot of mutations with each replication cycle, and they will accumulate. Most will be neutral or deleterious, in which case you never see them. Rarely, some might be selected for better growth in cell culture. And it's the same in passaging in a person from one person to another. Every person is slightly different. And so you have selection for the conditions in the person, especially the immune response, right, might differ from person to person, but also the intracellular environment. So basically, whenever you pass viruses, you're getting mutations. And especially if you say take a cell culture pass virus and put it in an animal, you're going to have a very different environment for the virus, so you're going to select for different kinds of mutations. And people have studied that, right? They sequence the genomes of viruses before you put them in and after you take them out of mice. Bodan is in Richmond, Virginia. Pete, don't talk about high-speed trains in the UK. HS2 is going to cost nearly £1 billion per mile. Wow. Oh, in Richmond, it is 40C. Mark writes, MAGA stupid forbids prefrontal cortex function. Just spew. Older and Wiser is saying to Uba Luby, CLE Metro Park is a highlighted treasure of the region. I walk some part almost daily year-round, so I don't know what that is. Patricia writes, there was a time when everyone had to take trains everywhere. My dad had to do Navy training in New York from the Deep South, and saw snow for the first time, which made a huge impact on him. And Kira, who was talking about Raritan Valley Line, is just outside Philly. There's Liza writes, there's a troll on many of your videos. I often wonder if they watch Let Alone Absorb. No, they don't watch. And I've heard this too, and they say I should go through and moderate it, and I should. But if you could, Les and Vanity have access to the YouTube. You could do that if you have a minute. I'll try to do that. I'll try to do that also. We'll just delete people who are being trolls. I haven't said anything about an anti-vaxxer on this show. I've not at all. So you're wrong. You got your own agenda. So Silent Runner, Monday morning, 14F, 78F. Anyway, anti-vaxxers, not good. So I don't care what you think about it. They're not good. It's not good to be an anti-vaxxer. Monday morning, 14F, possibly 90 on Saturday. Spring in Kansas. I'm going to Kansas in a couple of weeks. Kansas City. Martha's in Charleston, South Carolina, where I had ice on top of my trash can this morning. 32 in the Philadelphia area here. Thank you, Vanity. Pete says it all counts as engagement, whether thumbs up or down. Well, that may be. If they boost the algorithm, that's fine. Renata writes, Dr. Smethurst has a good breakdown of the astrophysics of Project Hail Mary, featuring an interview with Ken, as she put it. So maybe also we have a listener here who is an astrophysicist as well, right? And that would be from the state of Washington. Becky, what did you see the book? See the book or read the movie? Okay. All right, where are we? We're at Renata's. I just lost my place. Trash pickers. I went all the way up. Okay, here we go. What do we got here? Mike is in Kansas City. 70F. Temperature swing. 10 yesterday, 66 right now, 80 tomorrow. Renatus, don't give me this. It's an opinion nonetheless. That's what's getting our country into trouble, all right? Use your brain. Happy Wednesday. Jeff from Elgin, Illinois, 4 degrees C. All right, the anti-vaxxer says, I want a balanced debate. Fine, give me some facts to debate against. What good thing does an anti-vaxxer have to say? You have vaccines that have protected people for years and make good public health in the U.S. What's to be anti-vax about? They have no good arguments. That's the point. That's why we don't talk about it. Hello, Jill from Delaware, 32F. Good to see you. MN is in D.C. Winter doesn't want to let go. And Will vouches for the ghost map. Will originally, someone recommended it to Will, and Will read it. Yes, and he liked it very much. I think that's the way it goes. English saying back to as far back as 17th century. March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. Robert wants to read Ian Stewart's new book, Reaching for the Extreme. And maybe John can say it better than I. Balancing is not presenting an absurd opinion that has no basis in evidence. Just like giving equal time to the flat earth is foolish, something similar was said on immune booster. Science is not a belief system, okay? Vaccines work. The anti-vax opinion is not based on science. Like, I feel people are getting too many vaccines. That's not BS. That's not the way you make scientific decisions. And that's why the judge threw out RFK Jr.'s ACIP, which we'll get to in a minute. Hang on. The Making of the Atom Bomb by Richard Rhodes. I think I read that one. Do I have? No, it's a Kindle thing. Yeah. Is that the one? I think I read that. Yeah. Boy, that was a long one. Let me get my Kindle up here and go see. Okay, where is it? Well, it's not showing up here, unfortunately. I think that's what I read too. I liked it. It was really good. MN writes, it's hard for me to take a balanced approach to vaccines when vaccines allowed me to visit my late immunocompromised at the time sibling. How about it eliminated measles in 2000 in the U.S.? And now that people are backing off MMR vaccine for no good reason, by the way, zero. There's zero scientific evidence to back off the MMR. Now we have thousands of cases of measles in the U.S. Is that a balanced approach? Sorry. Ms. Blue Ocean, don't buy stuff in plastic. Unfortunately, if you bring your own containers to the grocery store, they tell you can't use them at the deli, which pisses me off. Trash solution, make things of stone and wood. Yeah, okay. Gallbladder 61F and clear in Baton Rouge. Tona, reduce, reuse, recycle. Yeah, but recycling is a myth, Tona. It doesn't happen. We used to send, well, we still send all our recycling to other places, and who knows what happens to it. So we used to send it to China, and they used to use it and send the products back. But in 2017, they said no more. So now it goes to much less well-off countries, and we don't even know what happens. So it's not being recycled. Recycled means you do something else with it, right? Hello, Lise. Good to see you. Columbus, Ohio, 3 degrees C. Mark, a lot of fashion, and the idea is that stuff is dated and needs to be replaced. Who cares if it's dated? If it works fine, just keep it. Reduce trash. I try. Jeff, in Elgin, we passed a ban on single-use plastic bags, but with far too many exemptions to make a difference. But it's a start. Government needs to fund research to create a circular economy or it's over. Tona, excellent book, Year of No Garbage, Recycling Lies, Plastic Problems and One Woman's Trashy Journey to Zero Waste by Eve Schaub. Okay, back to our anti-vax. I think vaccines are about informed consent and about benefits and risks. I hardly hear anything about the risks. That's because you don't come here. We talk about risks all the time, which are quite minimal, by the way. The anti-vaxxers are not fair. They exaggerate and lie about the risks. And the risks of getting infection always outweigh the risks of vaccination. No biological is zero risk. Nothing in life is zero risk. But vaccines are the best alternative to getting infection. We talk about it plenty here. We talk about the rare myocarditis caused by COVID vaccines. Most vaccines are quite good. And I'm sorry, DeWare, People are lying to you about horrible side effects of COVID vaccines and et cetera. Now, informed consent, you go to get a vaccine. Your doc says, I'm going to give you this vaccine, okay? I'm going to give this vaccine to your kids, okay? That's informed consent. You could ask them, what's it for? How does it work and so forth? It already happens. It's a lie that there isn't any. Okay. Tona writes, that book got me thinking about everything I bought with plastic, and I reconsidered my purchases for a good while after reading that. Sometimes you don't have an alternative, though, right? I just try and minimize buying water and juices and so forth. But like I buy juice and a carton, but the carton is still going to be thrown in the trash. It may not last as long as plastic. Lagotic, my Dutch friends always complain about their trains. All I can do is laugh. I've been there. The trains are really good there. Yeah, right. You should laugh. Rita, there are no trains in Idaho, and passenger trains. None. Idaho is abysmal at public transit. Okay, now we're on a trash thing. Okay, the trash produced per person will only rise as the petrol industry loses market share in energy and transportation, diverting R&D and marketing efforts to consumer packaging and other revenue streams. Yeah, it just goes up. I agree. Jill writes, 2 ways to reduce trash. 1, thrifting. 2, there's a shop in Brooklyn called Precycle, which sells food products without packaging whatsoever. Bring your own containers. I'm just a little wary about that, right? Contamination. Miss Blue Ocean writes, my father worked for the Metropolitan Transit Authority back in the day, and he then was the director of Marin County Transit in California, and the fossil fuel industry ran him out. Great. Just great. John writes, you can learn about the risks of diseases versus vaccines here at MicrobeTV, and when you're well informed, you'll see why experts get every approved vaccine and also give them to their children. Exactly. I mean, far more people support vaccines than don't. And look, our RFK is telling people, vaccines are no good, so the vaccination rates are going down, and now outbreaks of measles, lots of flu, and especially in young kids, pertussis, it's all preventable. Yeah, the docs can give you a copy of the vaccine information statement, and you can go online and get it yourself and read it ahead of time. So you can't say that there's no information. It's all out there. The first ever underground train in 1863, Paddington to St. Pancras, was a steam train. Yeah, we ran steam under the Hudson River. That's all we had, right? It's amazing. DH is in Atlanta, where it's 50 degrees Celsius. Jeff writes, too many people believe that our growth-based extractive economy will resolve all problems, but that's a farce. Read Planet of Slums by Mike Davis to see how most people live. Slums says it all. Well, in fact, a growing economy is proud to have trash. That means it's a growing economy, right? It's not going to solve all problems. You're absolutely right. Train Dreams, Gallbladder 8 says, was my favorite movie of 2025, but it's not so much about trains. Do viruses passage, says Visto, through cell culture a lot show greater diversity? Not necessarily, no. This once you put viruses into cells, if you keep passing them, there's not a lot of selection anymore. I mean, there is always some, but there's not a lot, so you're not going to get a lot of diversity. The greatest diversity arises when you change hosts. You go from one host to another, and then you get lots of changes, but then eventually with further passage, they even out. Hello, our favorite nephrologist from Bakersfield, California, where it is 35°C. Looks pretty warm out there. Yeah. Got your second COVID vaccine. Yeah. Any thoughts on a federal judge blocking the recommendations of ACIP? Well, let's take a look. That's my news thing for tonight. So let's bring it up. Here's the article. This is NPR's, but they're all over the place. Let's see if I can make this a little larger. Nope. View. Zoom in. It doesn't work for some reason. The zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, there we go. Zoom in. My keyboard shortcut didn't work. So this is NPR by Rob Stein. Federal judge halts RFK Jr.'s changes to children's vaccine policies. Federal judge, U.S. District Court Judge Brian Murphy in Boston put a hold on the decisions made by the ACIP, the CDC ACIP, ruling that RFK Jr. had improperly replaced the entire committee. And many medical societies said this is a welcome and historic outcome for children, communities, and pediatricians everywhere. How can making people healthy be the subject of such contentiousness? Anyway, this smarmy Andrew Nixon, the spokesperson from HHS, we look forward to this judge's decisions being overturned, just like his other attempts to keep the Trump administration from governing. That is not a response to a comment. That's just being just pouting that you didn't get your way. But yes, the ACIP meeting, which was scheduled for this week, is now canceled. And they were going to look into COVID vaccine safety. And I have to tell you, COVID vaccines have been in tens of hundreds of millions of people. And the safety issues are minimal. Nobody's hiding them. You can go look at all the safety reports. So I don't know what it is they had to talk about, but they have no expertise in vaccine safety, so maybe that's the problem. Anyway, the judge ruled that Kennedy and his committee had made arbitrary and capricious decisions, ignoring a long-used, well-regarded scientific process for developing vaccine policies. He wrote in his ruling, the government has disregarded those methods and thereby undermined the integrity of its actions. So he replaced them with people who don't know anything about vaccines. And they, of course, have issued recommendations like no birth dose for Hep B. And, so presumably this is going to be reversed. But, of course, they will appeal it, and so nothing probably will happen right now. The good thing is this bogus committee didn't meet, because it's horrible to hear them talking about things which they know nothing about. And look, I appreciate opinions, but you need to be grounded in a field to have an educated opinion about it. I want experts making decisions for me. I want experts doing surgery for me, taking care of my teeth, flying the plane that I'm in. I want experts making vaccine decisions, even though I am very well qualified to look at a vaccine and decide about it. I want to hear the experts as well, because there are people with far more expertise in vaccines than I have. So I appreciate expertise. The idea that we don't need expertise, which has been espoused by RFK Jr., is patently absurd. It's just because they don't agree with him, so he says we don't need it. This is not the way the world should work. A normal society works through discourse and listening to opinions from educated, experienced people. I don't understand why we have to get away. Oh, I know. It's all political. It's totally political. It has nothing to do with science. So those are my thoughts, Kang. I think this is a great decision, but I know they will appeal it, and it will take a long time to wind through the courts. And if it gets to the Supreme Court, who knows what they're going to do? You know, they're very happy to give the president all the power that he wants. Although they did say that tariffs were illegal, and I really actually was amazed by that. John writes, Dr. Becky is a good channel, PhD in astrophysics at Oxford. You know, I've been looking at more astrophysics. I'm gonna check her out because I really like, Neil deGrasse is great, but there are a lot of other people doing astrophysics. I'm trying to wrap my head around now, space time and gravity. This sheet of gravity. I saw a channel, a video yesterday where they said, okay, so Newton thought every body exerts gravitational force on another body, right? And so Newton said if you got rid of the sun immediately, the Earth would immediately start to go out of its orbit immediately. And Einstein thought about that and he said, no, there's nothing faster than the speed of light. And it takes 8 minutes for light to get from the sun to the Earth. So gravity cannot be faster than light. So it cannot be that Newton is right. I love this stuff. It's just so great. Julie is the astrophysics person that I was thinking of who might have opinion about Hail Mary, right? Do you, Julie? I've been a selective vaxxer, but after listening here, I went and got the shingles vax to protect me from possibly aging more horribly than anticipated by reducing inflammation. And also, it reduces dementia risk as well. I don't know why you would be selective because they're all beneficial. We can talk about it. It's not good to be an anti-vaxxer. Sounds a bit biased. I'm biased because I'm a scientist, bub. I know a lot. I've been around for 45 years and looked at all kinds of things. Vaccine injuries, sure, I understand. Immunocompromised people getting the wrong vaccine, I understand. We don't want that to happen. But that doesn't mean we have to apply no vaccines to the entire population. It is not good to be an anti-vaxxer and just say all vaccines are not good. I'm sorry, man. You're wrong about that. Okay. Second COVID for the year, 66, so you get 2 a year. Nevitz, that was a fascinating tweet. Origins of proteins from an RNA world. Yes, we talked about the origins of life in an RNA world. Very cool. Michele has a recommendation for science and learning Italian, science education and learning Italian. Geopop on YouTube. It's helping me learn Italian science. It has vignettes on logic, geology, etc. I don't care for the dubbed version. Cool. I'll check it out. Visto tax should be 10, not 12% is an opinion. Anti-vax is not an opinion, but a motivated lie. So Julie writes, I revised my soul and checked my childhood titers and get it done. Okay. Ubalubi writes, now that scary rhetoric is abundant, it might be needed now to explain vaccines in detail in a way each person understands, but we must be open-minded and brave about them. So beware, we're happy to have a conversation, but if you come in here and say anti-vaxxers need equal time, that's crazy because, we have gone over all the cases and they have nothing. They really have nothing. The only thing they have is this, it should be a choice of you to put stuff in your body. And, well, it actually is, because the doctor always asks you. But that's not how public health works either. A lot of things don't work if you have a choice. You don't have a choice to wear a seatbelt. You don't have a choice not to stop at a red light or a stop sign. You don't have a choice. You can't smoke indoors. You can't jump the lines. You don't have a lot of choices. So that's not a choice. That's not a reason to say I want a choice. I'm sorry. Vaccines are dangerous and mean if you're a measles virus. That's right. I know people around me who experience severe vaccine injuries. Why don't I ever hear about this? Because they probably haven't. They probably had a vaccine and then sometime later had a serious injury. That doesn't mean the vaccine caused it. If the vaccine causes something, it has to be investigated. So the guy who used to run the vaccine division at FDA a couple of months ago, he said, oh, there are 10 COVID vaccine deaths. No, there weren't. It just happened that 10 people who got COVID vaccine sometime later died. It doesn't mean they're connected. You have to investigate it. And if you don't, the claims are meaningless. So and this is a typical thing that anti-vaxxers say. I have friends who got severe vaccine injuries. How do you know? You're just saying that. You don't actually know. Anti-vaxxers, John writes, often overstate the occurrence of vaccine injury and base decisions on anecdotes rather than medical literature. So that's what I'm talking about. Anecdotes. My friend died of a vaccine injury. I love the video with the anti-vaccine advocate. Yeah, that was really good. There were 2 of them. Yeah. No, it's okay. I understand what you were saying, Julie. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's okay. Verbum lux divinitas. You and Amy are my heroes during COVID. I have a question for you. If I travel to Uruguay, does my flu vaccine that I took in October 25 cover me? That is a very good question. We'd have to look up the flu vaccine recommendation for Uruguay. Let's look it up if we can find it. Yeah, so they just say get vaccinated, and you're going to get the vaccine that's available here in the U.S. Even if it were different. But I think, I don't think there's anything you can do about it, because the only way you can get the Uruguay vaccine is to go there, right? Let's try another approach. Okay, so the 2020, so you can look it up on the WHO. The 2024 vaccine had certain strains, right? H1N1, H3N2, Victoria, and Yamagata. Let's see if we can update it to 2025. So in 2025, Uruguay used the WHO recommended Southern Hemisphere vaccine formulation. So now you can look up the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere vaccine formulations and compare them and see if they're different. The problem is, if they are, I don't see how you can get a Southern Hemisphere vaccine without going to the Southern Hemisphere, right? So, but it's a good question. It is a really good question. My doctor is recommending I get MMR. Is that, do you have low titer, or you never had measles and you don't think you were vaccinated? Because if you never had measles and you weren't vaccinated, it's a good idea, especially since numbers are rising in the U.S., right? Although you never had COVID, so you don't go anywhere, so, right? JJ writes, what does it mean to find the structure of a virus? How is it different from imagery like an electron microscope? So an electron microscope is a good way to get an overview of a virus structure, but it doesn't give you much detail. The resolution is not enough to be able to see individual atoms, so you can see exactly the three-dimensional structure of the particle. And what I mean by that, I don't have any good ones here, but this is, for example, a virus particle, right? And this is just a toy, but the three-dimensional structure will let you know where every atom is in the virus, so you can build a lovely shape. And if you've seen, so here's my phone. This is a three-dimensional structure of poliovirus bound to its receptor. It won't stay in focus. But so the way that you get the highly detailed structure is by higher resolution methods than electron microscopy, X-ray crystallography, or cryo-EM, which gives you, resolution enough to see every atom in the particle. So knowing the structure, so it depends, the structure, in my view, is the three-dimensional image of the virus and where every atom is located in three-dimensional space. Vista writes, metals, iron, aluminum, copper are actually recycled a lot. Plastic is not. Plastic bottle companies lie. Plastic is a big problem. I mean, you may think, okay, so that's only one thing, but the amount of plastic generated on the planet is huge. It's amazing. Yes, cardboard does make us money where I live. It's recyclable. It's the plastic that is toxic. Individual actions won't save us, only uniting and forcing governments and corporations to do better. By the way, speaking of vaccine injury, so over on TWIV, we did talk about the clotting caused by the adenovirus vectored vaccine when it first happened. And just recently, the mechanism was sorted out. Definitely we talked about the myocarditis. And in fact, we talked extensively on Clinical Update. So it's just not true to say that you never hear about it here. You don't because you don't come here. But I really don't like when you say things that aren't true. John, thank you so much for your contribution to science communication. Contribution hoping the vaccine hesitant people watch good programming on MicrobeTV like Immune Booster this week. I don't know, maybe we need to make it more clear. I mean, look, we do a paper on the adenovirus vector vaccine clotting issue. I think it's clear we're talking about vaccine-related injuries. And we give you the number. We tell you how rare it is, okay? And yeah, some people died. It's highly unfortunate that people died. We had no idea. It went through safety testing and 40,000 people. It was fine. But then when you get up to 1 million people, then you see rare effects. And it's highly unfortunate. But that, we needed to make vaccines that could, otherwise lots more people will die. And so, yeah, it doesn't help the people who died. I totally get that. But that's how public health works. Thank you, John, very much. I got super ill the day after a vaccine, writes Ubalubi. I have to take off work, but I still take them because I have informed myself openly about how they work and care about the people around me too. It's love. Bridget writes, Aldi chain, grocery chain doesn't use bags. You bring your own. Many grocery stores, you bring your own bags. So that's great. Those little flimsy plastic things. Oh my God, horrible. Just millions of them coming out every minute. So yeah, that's really good. That's a move forward, but it doesn't really make a big impact on the total amount of plastic going into the stream. Jabli check. I made a stream when it's live. London, 12:30 a.m. 9C. Thanks for making it. Okay, DeWare says they're a vaccine skeptic, which is something other than anti-vax. There are peer-reviewed studies that show with some vaccines the risk outweigh the benefits. No. You send me some of those studies. They don't exist, okay? Stop saying there's evidence for stuff that doesn't exist. It's the worst thing you can do for your case. Now, the adenovectored vaccines, if you've been listening to what I'm saying, you hear we've been talking about the adenovectored COVID vaccine, which caused very rare clotting and some deaths, okay? That's all been published. But it doesn't outweigh the benefits, all right? It does not outweigh. It was taken off the market because nobody wants people dying from vaccines, but it does not outweigh the benefits. Most people were fine with that vaccine. Sandy writes, we are so far into overshoot. The sea surface temperature is warmer than it's ever been. The Arctic is really melting. The permafrost is thawing. Yes, we can worry about the plastic. That's one thing. I mean, there are a lot. I agree. There are a lot of things to worry about. I mean, the plastic is screwing up countries left and right. The oceans are full of plastic. I agree. Warming is an issue too. MN writes, if you go to an old cemetery, you'll see families with very young children buried together. That doesn't happen now. You get 3 guesses why that might be. Brian had my measles titer done because I never got the vaccine. Being 78, they figured I was immune. Sure enough, I am immune. Yes, because you're old enough to have got measles. So there you go. That's good. That's very cool. Robert gets his flu shot every October. So do I. So does everyone I know. There's no one I know that doesn't get a flu shot or doesn't get a COVID vaccine that doesn't vaccinate their kids. Hello, Kip. Nice to have you. Thank you for your support of science communication. Hello from San Francisco, where it's sunny and 27°C. It was great to visit you in the incubator. You are a science warhead. We appreciate your voice. Oh, Kip, just like 2 days after you came, I got a photo from TWIV 1000, framed, printed and framed, and it's on the wall of the incubator. And it is so cool. I have to show you. Let's see if I can find it here. It is just so cool. It came out. It's a photo by Chris Condian of all of us who were at TWIV. Here we go. TWIV 1000. Let me put it on the screen here. Mac Studio. Okay. This is very cool. Let me drop it onto here. You ready? 1, 2. This is very cool. Oh, I have to make it smaller. So there's the photo, okay, which I had framed, printed and framed. It's beautiful because it's sharp as anything because, you know, Condian, it's a high resolution digital image. But there we have Kathy Spindler, Rich Condit, Alan Dove Dixon, rest in peace, me, Brienne, Daniel Griffin, and Angela. And just to show you how large this is, so there I am sitting below it. So it's pretty big. It's sitting in the incubator. So if you visit, you know, you got to see it. It's really cool. Very nice. Nevitz writes, a scientist friend mentioned to me many people are ordering various peptides online and injecting them into their bodies without doc supervision. I used to analyze peptides. They are not pure. Oy vey. That's true. I totally agree. It's crazy to do that. Patricia tries to buy glass as much as possible. Then I reuse the jars, give them away, or sell them. It works to an extent, but difficult to go 100% plastic free. Yeah, we're a group of critical thinkers. If you have data, if you have a paper, that's what we want, a peer-reviewed paper, send us the link and we'll take a look at it. And I will talk about it here in a mini lecture. No problem. Let's move on to today's big news. I already did the RFK story, which I think is big news. We have a mini lecture coming. Vincent, buy the shoes. What does it mean, buy the shoes? What shoes? All right, let's do a mini lecture. I don't know what the shoes are, but it's time for a mini lecture. You're going to like this, folks. Stay tuned. This is about a vaccine, which, by the way, has no side effects as far as we can tell. very minor, the usual soreness, fever, lethargy, etc. for a few days. Yet, people are suing because things happen to them sometime after they get the vaccine, and they claim the vaccine causes it without any scientific evidence for that. It's the human papillomavirus vaccine. So let's take a look. All right. And the question here is, do HPV vaccines prevent infection? I've been hearing about this for years. And I always say vaccines don't prevent infection. They prevent disease. So what's going on? By the way, tonight for the first time, I am streaming in two formats, the normal wide stream and also a vertical format. So if you're listening on your phone, you can find the stream in the shorts part of YouTube. And that way, I'll be right there if you want. Okay, do HPV vaccines prevent infection? So this is a slide from my class. Vaccines prevent disease, not infection. Why is that? It takes time for memory B and T cells to mobilize. A pathogen that infects a mucosal surface has time to establish at least transient infection before it's cleared. But HPV may be an exception. I just added that because the data that I'm seeing is pretty convincing. And I'm going to share it with you. So here in the bottom is a graph, right? We have, the carries is the wrong word, replicates. Or maybe enters. Yeah, enters would be good. So we have production of antibodies or T cells on the y-axis, and then this is time on the x-axis. So we have our first infection or vaccination, and then antibodies rise. In about 2 weeks, they rise to maximal levels, and then they slowly decline. So it takes 7 to 14 days to get a good antibody T cell response. Then if you are infected with the same virus later, you get a very rapid, stronger antibody T cell response, right? And typically this is associated with a mild or inapparent infection. The point is, it takes a couple of days for this memory response to kick in. And in that time, the virus has time to attach to cells, to get in, and to reproduce. Okay? That's the case for most pathogens. But it looks like the HPV is an exception. So let me give you the story here. So this is human papillomavirus. It is a small icosahedrally built particle. You can see the particle on the right, and on the left, it is cut open so we can see inside there's a double-stranded genomic DNA, which is a double-stranded circle. Okay? And the capsid is made up of two proteins, L1 and L2. The L1 is the major capsid protein. So what are human papillomaviruses? They cause warts. There are over 170 types that infect people. And you know what warts are like, right? Here are some pictures of warts. They can be on many different parts of your body. And most of them are transmitted by contact. For example, in high school, if you're an athlete and you're always walking around with bare feet in the locker room, you tend to get warts on the bottom of your feet because other kids walk around with warts. They shed virus and you pick them up. The bottom of your feet often get cracked. But some of these papillomaviruses are transmitted sexually. Okay? And some of those that are sexually transmitted cause what we call low-risk genital warts. In other words, you'll have a wart somewhere in your genital area and it goes away. It doesn't turn into cancer. But some of these types, of these 170, are high risk for causing cancers. So they're sexually transmitted and they're at high risk for causing cancers. And the cancers are cervical, vaginal, penile, anal cancers, and oropharyngeal cancers as well. And that's because people have oral sex and they transmit the viruses from the genital area to the mouth. And an oral cancer is horrible, folks. Terrible stuff. In the U.S., before we started vaccinating, we'd have about 31,000 cases of HPV cancers a year, several thousand deaths, And these are mostly types 16 and 18. Almost half of Americans are infected with some kind of genital HPV between the ages of 18 and 59 years of age. The studies have been looked at. Okay, so here on the right are graphs from the times of a couple of years ago. These are the percent seropositive men and women in different ethnic groups. So again, all Americans, 45% of men, 40% of women. Black, 65% of men, 63% of women. Hispanic, 44 and 39. White, 44, 37. And Asian, less, 24 and 23. All right, so these are dangerous viruses. And vaccines were developed because they kill people. These human papillomavirus vaccines are cancer vaccines. So we have Gardasil, right, which is made by Merck. Original Gardasil had 4 types, 6, 11, 16, and 18, made in yeast. And then Gardasil 9 had 6, 11, 16, 18, 31, 33, 45, 52, and 58. Cervarix is by GSK, type 16 and 18, made in insect cells. And these should be given before becoming sexually active to prevent cancer. But if you take these before you're sexually active, they're 100% effective at preventing cancer in multiple studies. But we learned recently that they may also help if you're already infected. The vaccines may clear the infection. That's really unusual for a vaccine. And what I'm going to tell you today will go a long way towards explaining that. Now, on the right is just how these vaccines are made. These are not infectious vaccines. These are subunit virus-like particles. So what they do is, remember, the particle is made up of a major capsid protein called L1. You take the DNA for that and you introduce it into yeast or insect cells, and the protein is made and it spontaneously assembles into empty particles with no genome. They're called virus-like particles, and that is what we use to vaccinate people. And that vaccination induces antibodies that are effective at preventing cancer. So a paper came out late last year, which kind of flew under my radar, in NPJ vaccines. Post-attachment neutralization of HPV-16 by antibodies derived from Gardasil vaccinated women, by Day, Thompson, Shearer, Carter, Galloway, Lowy, and Schiller. They find this. What they find is amazing. We're going to do this on TWIV because this is such an important paper. First of all, these antibodies can neutralize virus after it attaches to cells for up to 18 hours. So if you add virus to cells, these antibodies will block infectivity up to 18 hours after their addition to the medium. There are 3 different mechanisms for neutralization. And by the way, neutralization means blocking infection, okay? And this explains why HPV, it can have sterilizing immunity or can prevent infection. So, those of you who think I never changed my mind, of course I'm changing my mind. I see the data now. HPV vaccines prevent infection. They're probably the exception of many vaccines. So why are these vaccines so good? So first of all, what we knew before this paper, they produce what appears to be sterilizing immunity. Most vaccinees never test DNA positive for these types that are in the vaccine. Okay, I was skeptical of that, but that's the data. These vaccines induce high levels of neutralizing antibodies consistently in most people that are there for over 10 years. They're present in cervical secretions, and their efficacy improves with the years since vaccination. They don't decrease. Really interesting. 1 dose is enough to give you strong protection. Now, up until now, the neutralization of these antibodies were always tested by mixing virus with antibody and then adding it to cells. Nobody said, can we infect cells and then add antibodies later? And that's what this study shows. You can add antibodies up to 18 hours after infection, and it will still block infection. That's amazing. So you think 18 hours, well, if the antibodies are always present, that's the other thing, then there's no delay. Apparently, there are antibody-producing cells that last forever, or at least 10 years, and they're constantly producing antibodies, which is very different from other immune responses. So the question in this paper is, can vaccine-induced antibodies neutralize the virus after the virus has attached to and begun entering cells? And if this is true, it explains this sterilizing immunity even at lower antibody concentrations, and it shows some other mechanisms of neutralization beyond blocking of binding, which we already knew. The people in this paper think they found new mechanisms, but those had already been known. So why? So HPV infection is uniquely slow, and this creates a window for antibody intervention. So I have it here in text, and I'm going to show you a figure that summarizes it. So first of all, HPV cannot infect intact epithelium. You need to have physical trauma of some kind that exposes the basement membrane. This is a prerequisite for infection. So what kind of trauma? Sex causes breaks in the epithelium. And so we have a sexually transmitted virus. The physical activity causes breakage, and there you have an opportunity. I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. So then the virus particles attach to heparan sulfate proteoglycans on the basement membrane. That's the membrane below the epithelial sheet. That binding triggers a conformational change in the capsid. Okay? 3, then the conformational change exposes the N-terminus of the L2 capsid, the minor capsid protein, and that allows another protease, furin, to cleave it. This takes several hours. After L2 cleavage is done, then the virus can bind a secondary receptor on basal keratinocytes. This is really slow. It's asynchronous. And then finally, the capsid is internalized via endocytosis and delivers the DNA to the nucleus. So this multi-hour window between steps 2 and 4 is the key to post-attachment neutralization. Antibodies have time to intercept the virus even after the initial cell contact. Okay, here's the picture. Now, I grabbed this from the internet, and it's clearly made by AI because there are spelling errors like the dermis. Right? Epidermis is one S. The basal membrane is spelled wrong. Anyway, so this is, here's the female reproductive tract. There's the cervix, right? And this is covered with a layer of cells, but it's not just one layer, it's multiple layers. So here's the basement membrane. They call it a basal membrane, but it's a basement membrane. It's underneath the last layer of cells. You know, the cervical, the lumen is up here. You have a basement membrane, and then you have cells at different differentiation levels. So at the bottom, you have a basal epithelial cell. And as they move up, they're differentiating until finally they become a terminally differentiated keratinocyte. That's the cell on the top. HPV cannot infect those cells on the top. It can't infect any of these cells except the most bottom one. So that's why you need to have a wound in the epithelium, the mucosa of the cervix, to let the virus in, and that's shown here. And then remember, the virus binds to the basement membrane. It undergoes this conformational change, protease cleavage, takes hours, and then it finally can enter these cells. Then, as these cells differentiate, it brings the virus up with it. It's in the form of DNA, and it's only until, and you get some expression of viral proteins here. You have, see, on these basal cells, latent infection, low-level episomal replication. As the cells begin to proliferate, you get more DNA replication. And then at the very last level, the terminally differentiated keratinocytes, that's when you have virus particle formation and release. So virus particles can be made in these cells, but virus particles can't infect them because they don't, the capsid doesn't have the right conformation and the receptor isn't present there. So this takes a long time, and that gives antibodies a long time to act. It's amazing. So this post-attachment neutralization is really strong and prolonged. So they observe in this paper 100% neutralization at 3 hours post-attachment and a 250-fold dilution of the serum of these people who were immunized with Gardasil. they actually made monoclonals from these individuals, and they made 9. All 9 of them had more than 50% neutralization at 18 hours. So 18 hours after addition of the antibody, it's still able to neutralize. Because, remember, the virus is attached, but it's not getting in yet. And then finally, there are 3 distinct mechanisms for the neutralization. The antibodies can make the capsid fall off, it can make it stay on the surface, or it can degrade the capsid. So these monoclonal antibodies, a little more detail. So 9 of the 13 that they made effectively neutralized the virus post-attachment. The IC50s at 3 hours is comparable to pre-attachment neutralization, so very potent. And the activity is still there at 18 hours. It's lost by 24 hours. And each antibody can use multiple neutralization mechanisms, as I showed you here, of these 3. Now, the vaccinee polyclonal sera, all the women's sera showed complete neutralization at 250-fold dilution up to 3 hours. It was maintained to 18 hours post-attachment. And vaccination boosts titers versus infection. And so vaccination is better at giving you antibodies than infection. And these multiple post-attachment mechanisms are also active in polyclonal sera. So basically, these antibodies are unique, and the reproduction cycle is unique, so it gives them plenty of time to act. So there are 3 mechanisms of neutralization. 1, capsid shedding from the cell surface. So basically, the virus is removed before it can complete entry. Antibody binding induces release of the virus from the cell surface, and this is some of the evidence for that. Second, the antibodies make the virus stick to the surface, and they can't get into the cell. So the antibody traps the capsids on the cell surface, and they remain there throughout the 21-hour period that they used. And so, again, that's preventing infection. And finally, there's rapid intracellular degradation. The antibodies access internalized capsids within endosomal compartments. So the antibodies get taken up into the cell, and they end up in the endosome with the virus, and somehow they prevent infection. They seem to be destroying the capsids, and maybe it's because the lysosomes are fusing with the endosomes. So again, most monoclonals and the polyclonal sera generated by vaccination have multiple neutralization mechanisms post-attachment, which is pretty interesting. So why do they achieve sterilizing immunity? Some of you are asking that. That's the whole point of this lecture, right? So there's a uniquely protracted infection process. There's a multi-hour window between attachment and binding, which is a feature unique to the virus that enables post-attachment antibodies to work. The antibodies work at 3 different stages: before attachment, at the cell surface, and inside the cell. So that's pretty comprehensive. And this third point is really key. Continuously circulating antibody from long-lived plasma cells, not memory B-cell recall, ensures antibody is always present. This is why sterilizing immunity for HPV is the norm, not the exception. So normally, when a B-cell encounters an antigen, it differentiates into a plasma cell. It makes antibodies, and those plasma cells eventually die. But for HPV, the plasma cells don't die. They stick around, and they're always making antibody. And now why that happens, we don't know. That's actually a feature of memory. There are always some long-lived plasma cells, but here it's unique. And maybe, the low levels of antibodies, because you have such an extended period where you can neutralize the virus, maybe that makes it effective. So interestingly, infection versus vaccination differs. So this is a case where vaccination is clearly much better than infection. Natural infection induces lower avidity, less diverse antibodies that are less effective at post-attachment neutralization. Vaccination enhances this capability. So all the crap thrown at these Gardasil HPV vaccine is just misguided, because these are fabulous, safe vaccines. Unbelievable. So this study really, to me, explains why HPV vaccines can prevent infection. This antibody-induced shedding from the cell surface, they say, is a mechanism that may be unique to HPV due to its exceptionally long transit time on the cell surface and the connection to sterilizing immunity. This is why the HPV vaccine prevents infection. The combination of high titer, long-lived antibodies and the slow biology of HPV infection creates conditions where infection can be prevented, not just disease. So this is the answer. HPV is unusual, and because of the long-lived antibodies and the biology of infection. So next time, and the other virus that people say the vaccine is sterilizing is measles. So I will go and look at the literature like I did for this and answer that question. Do measles vaccines prevent infection as well? I don't know if there's such a clear-cut case, but we will have a look at it, okay? So I hope you understood that. From now on, I will agree that HPV vaccines do prevent infection and disease, of course. And that is unlike pretty much every other vaccine that we use. Most other vaccines, maybe with the exception of measles, I don't know, we will see, prevent disease but not infection. And for me, I find this satisfying intellectually because it's something that bothered me. I always said vaccines prevent disease, not infection, and it was always this niggling thing here. Now it's clear they do prevent infection. So that's how science works, folks. It's not what I believe. It's what the data say. That's how science works. And these people like RFK and other lawyers, they don't know how science works, but they have a different agenda. Okay? All right, let's see what we got here. I've heard Susie Wiles trying to rein in RFK because his anti-vax stances are unpopular with the majority. They're concerned about the midterms. Yes, they're trying to quiet him down. And that's why Bhattacharya said get measles vaccine. And then after the midterms, should they win, it will be back to normal. You'll see. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting. Hello, Barb Tries. Just got here from watching you and Nels. All right. Nevitz worked for a major pharmaceutical company, developed vaccines. It's an enormous undertaking. They took it seriously. Constant training, validation of procedures, testing, auditing of data following FDA procedures. Yes? So here's the typical response. The vaxxer didn't want to publish his study because it would finish his career. Okay, well then the study doesn't exist because that's how science works. It has to be peer reviewed. So I'm guessing it's flawed and would never be published anyway. Okay, so much for that. I think this is the Henry Ford Foundation funded study. Yeah, we talked about this on Beyond the Noise. Had not published the paper because it did not even come close to meeting the rigorous scientific standards we demand, not because of the results. Yes, a plumber should do RFK's next colonoscopy because he doesn't need experts, right? Dan Defunct the Bunk will have anti-vaxxer types on to discuss his vaccines. Well, I hand it to him for doing that because I don't want anti-vaxxers who have no science to talk about on my programs. No, this is not true. The Henry Ford study was not published because it sucks. It's methodologically flawed. It's not any official narrative. There's no narrative. There's results, man. And the results say that they're really safe and useful. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, and Ubalubi just checked the study. Even Google AI says that the one you're mentioning is an advocacy project surrounding an unpublished retrospective study. Yes, here we go, back to astrophysics. To keep the speed of light constant, you need to shrink or expand space and time. Yes. Right. That's amazing, right? Isn't that cool? Actual research and studies prove, Jeff writes, the safety and efficacy of vaccines. The movie Inconvenient Study isn't a study. It was never published because it's a farce. Veronica writes, I like the channel by Anton Petrov. Daily 15-minute videos about scientific articles, mostly about physics and space. Highly recommended. How to ask questions here, just like you did. You asked a question. Bridget writes, Neil deGrasse Tyson explained how we live in 4 dimensions in a very simple way. Yes, you meet lunch at someone. It's a time and a place, right? So 5th Avenue and 34th Street, you have X, Y, and Z, ground level, and then the time. So the time is the 4th dimension. Yes, I watched that video too. I like that. If you don't get your expert advice from experts, where do you get your expert advice? So RFK Jr. said, we don't need experts. We can make our own decisions. Which, if anyone buys that, then I have a bridge to sell you. Because, of course, we need experts. That's how this world works, usually, with experts. At least the U.S. has worked with experts over the years. You have people who know what they're doing, and that's why the ACIP, which has no vaccine experts, doesn't know what they're doing, and they make recommendations that are back-assward, like no birth dose of Hep B, no rotavirus vaccine. Come on. Come on. Brian Greene also has a YouTube channel where he interviews physicists about quantum mechanics, relativity, gravity, and other topics. Yes, I found that one too. It's really good. Les has a question. How many people died from SARS-CoV-2 because they were unvaxxed? Hundreds of thousands in the U.S. alone. Anti-vax kills. That's why I said earlier, which you didn't like, DeWare, that anti-vax is not good. Yeah. Well, what you think doesn't matter, actually, right? Because you're not an expert, and it wasn't published because it sucks. If it didn't suck, it would be published. Equal time is nonsense. I agree. We need to discuss only objective reality indicated by valid research and studies. With respect to astrophysics, NOAA Space Weather Prediction Center solar flares will bring aurora activity tonight through Alaska, Canada, and northern U.S. states. There are no excess deaths. That's why, DeWare. There aren't excess. I explained this 2 weeks ago. Someone asked me the same thing, another anti-vaxxer. How do you explain all the excess deaths during COVID? Well, unvaccinated people, stressed out people, heart attacks. There are plenty of explanations for the excess deaths. This is another BS anti-vax trope. You can't do any better than that? Oh my gosh. Imagine getting your health advice from a politician. That's like asking a priest to fly the plane. You know, it reminds me of E Pluribus, right? Where everybody can do everything. Yes, I think it's time to start ignoring. I agree. Agreed. I tried to be fair, but you can see it just goes back into the old anti-vax tropes. Yeah, what was it? There's a study in Colorado about, Daniel Griffin showed it on one of his last clinical updates, an association between two things that are totally hilarious, right? Not all timing is causative. Eating watermelon and malaria outbreak timing have a strong correlation, but no causation. Okay, ignoration time. Yeah, so this is what I was saying before, the adenovirus vectored thrombocytopenia. We've talked about that multiple times on TWIV. Yeah. Vanity writes, the University of Cambridge developed a misinformation susceptibility test. It takes 2 to 5 minutes if anyone is interested. Oh, there you go. There's the link. Thank you. Yes. If you think that long COVID is vaccine injury, we had long COVID before we had vaccines, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Vaccination actually mitigates long COVID to some extent. Not completely, but to some extent. That's right. Okay, Brian. What structure about the plus sense strand of RNA signals the ribosome? That is a coherent sequence of nucleotides for protein synthesis as opposed to the minus sense. Well, it's not just the sense that does it. Okay, for many mRNAs, the 5' end has a cap structure which attracts the ribosome. And that's the key. If you put a cap on a negative strand, it will also attract the ribosome, but it will never find an AUG, an initiation codon, so it will never translate it. And there's nothing to translate. But it's not being a plus strand. It's just having a cap structure at the 5' end. And some viruses do not have caps. They have other ways of attracting ribosomes. So, for example, poliovirus and related viruses have a highly structured 5' non-coding region. They don't have caps, and the ribosome binds to that. So that's the answer to that. It is the cap structure that is predominant. Martha was born in 1951 and remembers her older brother lying in bed with polio when I was less than 5. Make my vax a double. So Julie is afraid to get more vaccines for COVID. Why? Well, you probably don't need it. But, I mean, some people get 2 a year. We have a doctor here, right, a nephrologist who just got 2 vaccines this year. And there's really no negative to that. Remember the guy in Germany who got 267 COVID vaccines? Not recommending that. But there's really no downside. Nobody has ever shown a downside to getting multiple COVID vaccines. Mike writes, visited a Civil War era cemetery where everyone has been dead for over 100 years. Time erases us all. Our lives are puffs of smoke. I know, Mike. I think about that a lot. I'm enjoying life so much, and then, well, it doesn't matter. When I'm gone, I won't know the difference. It's only when you think about it ahead of time that it kind of bothers you, yeah. But it's okay. Yeah, people are allowed to believe what they believe, but don't tell us what to believe, especially scientists. And don't have an RFK who's believing the wrong thing. Good day. Melinda, 40 in North Carolina, we're in a cold snap. Anti-vaxxers can't handle the truth. Well, yes, the truth is the scientific evidence, right? And he just went through all the typical vaccine tropes, right? Unbelievable. Well, Julie, it's our job to teach you things, not just me, but everybody else here. We have a joint teaching effort here, and hopefully it gets out and goes to other people. But, you have someone like that who is not open-minded at all and clearly has an agenda, just like RFK Jr., right? Waving these crappy studies that have never been published. We talked about that study on Beyond the Noise, in fact. John writes, if COVID had the visible devastating physical attributes of smallpox or Ebola, the demand for vaccines would have been universal and immediate by everyone, including you-know-who. It was pretty devastating, right? A lot of people were dying, and I think most people welcomed the vaccines, and it was really only the anti-vaxxers that ruined it for everyone, right? So, oh, you shouldn't make people get vaccines. I mean, right, they did make some mandates. It's a pandemic. What the hell? Grow up. Melinda writes, to be fair, I don't do a risk-benefit of all vaccines and medicines. I work with my doctor to stop a medicine that wasn't helping. Well, if something's helping, that's an easy risk assessment, right? If it's not helping, you stop it. You don't take medicines that aren't working. But that's where experts come in. They do the risk assessment for you. And that's why these people don't trust experts, because they don't align with their beliefs. It's not a belief system, right? Yeah, Michael, hello. Sometimes the doctors say it was the vaccine to family members. Hard to enter an argument with friends who have been told that. Yeah, it's true. The doctors should never say that because they can't tell. They cannot tell. You would have to do a very comprehensive, involved study to tell. And they don't do that. It's not fair. They should know better. Yes, so Roald Dahl's daughter died from measles. This is his letter. Should read that. Yeah, we did an episode on babies who died of MMR, right? We talk about polio vaccine problems. We do not shy away from talking about, oh, why don't I ever hear about vaccine injuries here? Because you don't listen. Come on. Okay. Didn't Dr. Griffin cover an open forum study that suggested continued COVID vaccines showed a benefit to all-cause mortality? You might be right. Because COVID really is bad, right? Especially cardiovascular system, but also others as well. So you get a lot of cutting back on COVID, cutting back on SARS-CoV-2 disease is good for sure. It's just a matter of whether you need to keep getting them or not, right? It depends on your age, I think. That Brian writes, that which may be asserted without evidence may be dismissed without evidence. GST Bio writes, with spillovers being about numbers, I wonder how low the risk to humans from H5N1 is. Much virus out there in a growing number of species and environment, a job for a Gen AI model. If you asked AI, they would say they don't know. They would say it's possible because they can't come up with things that we don't know, right? What you're talking about is general, AGI, but we don't have AGI yet. So I don't know. Yeah, the more it replicates. But on the other hand, you don't know what the barrier is to human transmission, right? It may be very high. It may be that when it hits human transmission, it loses fitness. And that's what nobody talks about. I mean, yeah, the virus is everywhere. It's sampling mutational space, fine. But if it's not consistent with viral fitness, it will never happen. We'll see. That's all I can tell you. Vanity, yes, visit the incubator one more time before you leave. Yeah, that would be good. Yep. Yes, Elizabeth, typical anti-vaxxer. Bring the receipts to prove them liars, and they come back with people have the right to their opinions. Fine, you can have your opinion, but don't be a leader of health in the U.S. and just go on your opinion. That's not how it works. That's the whole problem with this administration. Yeah, he thinks he should go to war with Iran without any good reason for it. Jeez. Oh, on the NPR article, shoes. Oh, well, let me go back and look what the shoes were. I didn't even notice them. Federal judge. Probably the shoes are not going to show up now, right? I wonder why I'm getting shoe ads. Oh, they're not here now. Did they look cool? I missed them. All right, thanks. You're scrolling on a website and a shoe ad came up. Okay. There's a Skechers ad on the NPR stories. Okay, got you. Got you. Thank you, SRR, for your contribution to science communication. Really appreciate it. When is insurance going to pay for HPV vaccines in all age groups? Yeah, they should. They should. Thank you, SQLS Marty, for your contribution to science communication. Really appreciate it. An ad blocker will add 10% to your lifespan. Yeah, one of the things people say is HPV vaccines cause liver damage. Not true. Not true. You still right. Cervical cancer was once thought to be natural. Now it's viral. What about prostate? There's no evidence for viral involvement in prostate cancer. Not yet. So some people say that, if you get HPV vaccine, you will become more promiscuous. But studies have shown that that's not the case. No. Okay, Julie is 50, athletic, active, never had HPV vaccine or an abnormal PAP. Would it benefit? It depends. If you're sexually active, if you're not, you don't need it. But you never know when that could change. So if it were me, I would get it. Yeah. Thank you, Vexing Cat, for your contribution to science communication. Really appreciate it. If you had genital warts, you should get a vaccine, right? HPV. Yep. So the slowness of the growth of HPV and the need for wound is key to vaccine sterilization, which one? The other is that the antibodies can work long after the virus is bound to the cells, even after it's gotten into the cell. And the plasma cells that make antibodies are long-lived, so you always have a good level of antibody in you. But remember, the vaccine does better than infection at inducing antibodies. That's really interesting. Yeah, too bad other viruses are not like HPV. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, right? Are the cancer cells presenting HPV? Could vaccines? No, the cancer cells don't present antigens, right? Only antigen-presenting cells do that. Although, yeah, they should by MHC 1, right? Yeah, they should for CTL killing. Sorry, yes, they should. Could the vaccine prime the immune system against existing cancer? It's a good point, because all we know is that the vaccine seems to reverse. If you're infected, the vaccine in 70% of women can eliminate infection. I don't know anything about cancer. Would it be worth looking into how to generate long-lived plasma cells? Yes. What is it about HPV vaccine that generates that? For sure. That would be brilliant. with blocking, well, I just say blocking infection. That would be better than sterilizing. I agree. I don't like sterilizing at all because it has a dual meaning, right? Is there any evidence for increased killing of virally infected by CTLs or NKs? No, actually, I mean, people have mostly studied antibodies. We don't really know what the correlate of protection is, but antibodies work, right? Well, it's a correlate. But yeah, CTLs may also play a role. Yes, RFK gets a $2 million payday if the anti-cervical cancer vaccine case wins and women get cancer. That's right. Just great. That's just great. Do we know that the persistent memory antibodies here are unique? Maybe it should be special. Yeah, well, they do this post-attachment neutralization, which is not unique. It's special, yeah, because other virus antibodies can do it. Yeah, the HPV vaccine should be approved by everyone. I mean, look, even if you're not sexually active, if you once were and you're 70 and you happen to have HPV, it could cause a cancer at some time. So you should get vaccinated. Yeah. How is glycosylation of antigens so important for vaccines when the peptides presented are short? The sugars can be part of the peptide, right? Because the peptides are chopped up in the proteasome and loaded, so they could have carbohydrate on them too, for sure. Yeah. I'm glad you liked the lecture. Permanently differentiated sounds like those poor victims of RFK Jr. Maha cult. Yeah, you need to choose your experts carefully. The experts who designed the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier designed a flawed toilet system. Sailors need to wait 45 minutes to have a crap. Oh, dear. Brian, I knew I came to the right place. I'm glad you liked it. I happen to be a virus expert. I don't know. I'm not boasting. I'm just saying I spent a lot of time thinking about viruses, and I really enjoy it, too. Someone asked the other day why we haven't developed rapid tests for other highly communicable diseases. There probably are. I'm sure there's a rapid TB test. Let's look. Is there a rapid TB test? Yes. You can get it from sputum in a few hours. There are a lot of rapid tests for sure. Okay. Viruses Luna, hello. How are you, Rima? Good to see you late, but it's okay. Trying to find that answer for 6 months. Well, if you have virus questions, come here. And if I don't know the answer, I will find it. And I will admit if I don't know the answer. Okay, Rita has worked in veterinary medicine. There are 2 vaccines I wouldn't bother with. They don't work. There's vaccines for caseous lymphedema in sheep and rattlesnake venom for dogs. Okay. Venom vaccine for dogs. Got it. Would anyone think that any human vaccines don't work, the currently used ones? I think they all work to some extent, right? S&S writes, I lost my mom, dad, and stepdad to COVID before the vaccines were on the market. I am a Delta wave daughter. I got so upset and angry on the COVID idiots. COVIDiots. Thank you. No such thing as AI. It's just algorithms. Well, AI is just the brand name, right? It's just so people know what it is. Yeah. Okay. It's good to be a skeptic. You have to be a skeptic, right? Let me look into this. But don't believe what the wrong people tell you. Just ask experts, right? It's a cult of ignorance in the U.S., and there has always been nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge. Thank you, Jablicek, for your contribution to science communication. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Mark is back. I expected to see a blood red camera image from Vincent's head exploding. I was okay, but he turned out to be just another anti-vaxxer, nothing different. Intermittent HPV outbreaks have given me anxiety. Get an HPV vaccine. Find someone who will do it. I know a doc on Long Island who would definitely do it. Yes, look at tonight's lecture. It is all about, you could rewind and watch now while it's playing still, the HPV vaccine preventing infection. It does. Good evidence now, and I believe it. Well, it's not my belief. It's correct. Can a person have a mild case of shingles at 45? Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I've known some people in their 20s who have shingles, and not so mild, yeah. Viruses, Luna says the rapid TB test is PCR on tissue or sputum or bowel, but it's not 100%, at best 80%. Okay, we have reached the end. And let's do a poem before we leave. I have just one poem tonight. It's another Edgar Allan Poe. I like that, he was so prolific and he died at 40. He did a lot of stories and poetry. Here we go. This one's called Alone by Edgar Allan Poe. From childhood's hour, I have not been as others were. I've not seen as others saw. I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken my sorrow. I could not awaken my heart to joy at the same tone. And all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, was drawn from every depth of good and ill the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm and the cloud that took the form of, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view. It's Alone by Edgar Allan Poe. I want to thank the moderators for coming tonight. Vanity Nutrition, Les Fabi, and Tom Steinberg. Appreciate your being here and keeping it civil. Thanks everyone else for coming. I hope you enjoyed the evening. I hope you learned a lot. And I will be here again next week. Let's see, today is the 18th. Next week, we're wrapping up March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be back for another round of office hours. We'll find out if measles vaccine prevents infection. How about that? Thanks for joining, everyone. Good to see you. Stay safe until next time. Good night.